Okay, let's see one program of arrays where we are going to calculate the sum of all the elements of an array, and after calculation of sum, we'll find out the average of all the elements of an array. And let's first understand the logic of this particular program, how we are going to write down the program for finding the sum and average of elements of an array. Let's see, I have an array, a single dimension arrays. That is, inside that I have a value 2, 5 and 7. The first value is stored at a of 0, the second at a of 1 and the third value of at a of 2. Now what I'll do is I'll add the first element, that is a of 0, I'll add it with 0. I'll start with 0, adding it with 0, because anything added with 0 will give me the same number. So 0 plus, what is in a of 0? 2. So 0 plus 2 is equal to 2. That is the answer I am getting by adding the first element of my array. Now what I'll do is, whatever the result I've got of my previous step, that is 2, I'll add with the second element of an array which is stored at a of 1. So 2 plus 5. 5 is stored at a of 1. So it becomes 7. Now the same method I'll adopt for my third step, that is the result 7 I'll add with the third element of my array. The third element is stored at index of 2, that is a of 2. So 7 plus a of 2, which becomes 7 plus 7, which is the result is 14. So you can see that this 3 steps helps me to get the final result of the summation of all the elements of my array. Now what I'll do is, these steps I'll convert it into a formula. What would be my formula is sum. Initially I'll take a variable sum whose initial value is 0. So sum plus I'm adding array elements. So a of I would be my indexes, which starts with 0, 1 and 2. So sum plus a of I, and the result I am going to store it in the same variable, that is sum. Because in the next step, when I go to the second step, this 2 value I am using it as a sum value for my next iteration. So the result of the previous iteration should be the same, or you can should be the same of this particular, should be the same at sum. So the result, this is my result. So my result and the first value of my formula should be equal. It should have been stored in a same variable. So I have taken sum is equal to sum plus a of I. So this is sum, which is initialized to 0. Then a of I, that is my array elements. Whatever the result I am getting, I am storing it in the sum variable. The value of indexes I will be 0, 1 and 2. So I'll use this formula, sum is equal to sum plus a of I. How many times? 3 times. So it should be, since I'm going to repeat the steps again and again, I'll be using the concept of loops, and inside loop I'll use this particular formula. Do not forget to initialize the value of sum to 0, otherwise we'll get an incorrect output. After calculating the value of sum, value of array average has to be calculated. So average is easy, that is average is equal to sum divided by number of elements. What is my sum value? 14 divided by 3, because I have 3 elements in my array, and I'll get the result as 4.66. So let's see this particular program of finding sum and average of the elements of an array in my Dev C++ editor. So create a new file, source file, then hash include. Okay, so let's start our program to find out sum and average of a one dimension array in Dev C++. So first create a new file, then hash include stdio.h, because we're going to use printf scanf, our integer main or void main. Now first part would be the declaration. So we are going to declare an array A whose size is 10, maximum size is 10, the index is I, and I'll use a variable sum whose initial value is 0. Do not forget this 0. Next is I'll take another variable average, which would be of float data type, because when I'll find out average, I'll get there are chances that I'll get the values in decimal point. So use float of average. If you want, you can take array also of float data type, but right now I've taken it as of integer data type. Now, next, also I'm taking one more variable, that is n. N will determine how many values I want to store it in an array. So first, enter the value of n. Enter n slash n. Scan. Use scanf to enter the value of n, that is percentage d, comma ampersand n. Right? So n, though my size is 10, maximum size is 10, if I want, I can store less value inside an array, and that value would depend upon the value of variable n. Now I'll take for loop. First, I've done the declaration of an array. Now I'll do the initialization of an array. So printf enter array values slash n. You need to do two steps compulsory. One is declaration of an array and another is initialization of an array. I'm going to use runtime initialization of my array. So I equal to 0. Index starts with 0. I less than n. The last index would be n minus 1. So less than n. And I plus plus. Each index will be incremented by 1. Now inside this for loop, I'll use scanf to initialize my array. So percentage d, comma, ampersand a of I, ended with semicolon. Okay, so this is using the scanf, I'll get different values inside my array. The loop will be executed n times, so I'll get n values inside my array. Now what you can do is, after getting, when I is equal to 0, the first value would be of a of 0. Whatever value you get into a of 0, you go on doing the summation also. So how you're going to do summation? So use the formula which I have explained. Sum is equal to sum plus a of I. Right? So I equal to 0, scanf a of 0. So the first element is stored at a of 0. Then what we are doing is sum is equal to sum plus a of I. That is, sum is 0, 0 plus a of 0. So the first element is added with the zeroth value which is stored in sum, and I'll get some result inside sum. Again the loop is executed for the next iteration, that is I plus plus. I will become 1. Get the values inside a of 1 using scanf and then do the addition of it. Go on doing this again and again until this loop exits. Then afterwards, after finding the value of sum, which we'll get in some variable, find out the average. How you're going to find out the average is equal to sum divided by number of elements. How many elements I have? N. So divided by n. Now sum is also an integer data type and n is also an integer data type. But the result I want is in float. So what I can do is I can do runtime. I can do implicit typecasting. That is how you are going to do implicit typecasting. Before the variable name sum, I'm writing float. Means whatever sum value I have, result I have, that would be converted into float. So the final result, I'll get it in float. At least one variable should be a float, either sum or n, to get the final result into float data type. So I'm converting sum into float data type. You can also convert n into float. So this is the way we have calculated sum and average. Now what we need to do is display the result. So printf sum is of integer data type. So percentage d, comma, and sum, and also print display the value of average. So average is, it's a float data type. So percentage f, comma, average, and end it with semicolon. So this is all complete program of my one dimension array in which I am doing the summation and finding out the average of my program. Now what to do is save the file. So save it, Control S, give some name. I'm giving sum 1D, save as type C source file and save it. My file has been saved. Now compile your program and check for the errors. There are no errors and no warnings. All the steps are correct. Now run the program. So as you can see here, okay, so you can see because of the first printf enter n is displayed onto the screen. Now I'll enter the value. My size of my array is 10, but I can store less values also in my array. Say this, I'm storing n is equal to 3. So now I need to enter 3 different values for my array. Say the values are 7, enter 9, enter 1, 2. Okay, so these are the 3 values of my array. So what is the sum? 7 plus 9, 16 plus 2, that is 18. Sum is 18. I'm getting the correct answer. And the average is 18 by 3, which is 6.0. So this is the way I've got the output. I've done the summation and average of the elements of my array. If you want, you can execute again. Enter the value of n. This time I'm entering 5. So I need to enter 5 different values inside my array. Say the values are 1, 5, 7, 2, and 8, 9. So these are the 5 values in my array. Each will be stored at different indexes. And then the result is sum is 24 and average is 4.18. Okay. So you can go on testing this program with different values in the array and find out the sum and average. Okay. So we have seen how to find out the sum and average of single dimension array. Now what we'll do is we'll see the same thing but for two dimension arrays. So I have a two dimension arrays in which the values are row wise 2, 5, 1, 8, 9, 6. The value first value 2 is stored at index 0, 0, a of 0, 0. The second value 5 is stored at 0, 1 and so on for the rest. So for two dimension arrays, I want to find out the summation and average of all the elements of my array. So how you're going to do is, we'll be using the same method that which we have used for single dimension. I'll start with the first element. The first element is stored at a of 0, 0. I'll add it with 0. So 0 plus 2, that is equal to 2. Now, second step would be the result of this first step, that is 2, I will carry forward in my next step. So 2 plus the second element of my array, that is a of 0, 1, which is equal to 5. So 2 plus 5 is 7. Similarly, go on for the rest of the other elements. 7, I'll add it with a of 1, 0, which is equal to 1. So 7 plus 1 equal to 8. Then 8 plus the next element a of 1, 1, that is 8 plus 8, which is 16, and 16 plus 9, 25, and 25 plus 6, 31. So the sum is 31. Now the six steps which we have mentioned will make a generalized formula out of this. So what would be my formula in this case would be sum is equal to sum plus, since it's a two-dimensional array, now I'll have sum plus a of I, j. I would be for rows and j would be for column. The sum value would be initialized with 0. I would be from 0 to 2 because there are 3 rows, and j would be 0 to 1. There are 2 columns. Okay, and the value of sum would be 0. So you can use this formula, sum is equal to sum plus a of ij, to find out the sum of each elements of an array, and this formula will be using it in a loop. There will be two loops, one for row and another for column. The row would be on index I and the column would be on index j. In case of single dimension array, our formula was sum is equal to sum plus a of I. Means since it was a single dimension, so we have used a of I. But in case of two dimension array, the formula would become sum is equal to sum plus a of ij. And two loops, one on I and another for j. Otherwise, almost everything is quite similar to your one dimension array. And to find out the average, we'll do is sum is equal to average is equal to sum by number of elements. So 31 is our sum, total elements is 6, 31 by 6 is 5.16. Okay, so we'll do the same program to find out sum and average now with two dimension arrays in Div C++. Let's see how to do it. So this was our program. We'll do some minor change in my program. What are the changes that we need to do? A of 10 will have two dimensions. So make two sizes. Again, I'll do 10 here. I same. Now with I'll have another one more index that is J. Also, I'll have two sizes, one for row, another for column. So M comma N. M is for row and N for column. The declaration of average and sum will remain same. Now I need to enter two values, the value of the row size and the column size. So I'll write down enter M and N. Enter two values from the user, percentage D, ampersand M. Okay, so M and N. M will determine how many rows and how many columns you want in a two-dimension array. Now we are going to have two for loops. One would be for row, which would be for m times, so I equal to 0, I less than m, I plus plus. And there is another for loop which would be j equal to 0, j less than, this time n is for the number of columns I want, and j plus plus. Inside the second for loop, I'm going to input the values inside my array. That is, we have to do two steps, declaration, and this is a declaration of a two-dimension array, and now the initialization of a two-dimension array. How you are going to do initialization is percentage D, A of I, and write down the second index, that is J. Also, the formula would become sum is equal to sum plus A of ij. Whatever value element will input in using scanf, that we are going to add it with sum. Continuous. So this loop will be executed m into n times. I'll get that many values inside my array, and each array element will be added also at the same moment of time. Now, to find out average, how you are going to find out the average? Average is equal to float sum as it is divided by total number of size of your array. That is your m into n is the size of your array. So put this into a small bracket inside a round bracket. The total elements in my array would be size 1 multiplied by size 2. That is row size is nm and column size is in n. So m into n. And I'll get the result of average by dividing it from sum and display the value of both this the sum and average. So we see, you can see we have done some minor changes. Instead of single dimension, I made it two dimensions, and I've taken two for loops for a two-dimension array. So save your file and compile it. Okay, one bracket is missing. Remember to have proper brackets. One bracket for inner for loop and another bracket for outer for loop. Save it. Execute your program. There are no errors, no warnings. And then run your program. So here you can see now enter the values of m and n. So you need to enter two values, one for row and another for column. Say I have entered 2 for row and 3 for column. So total 6 values I need to enter inside my array. What are those 6 values? Say for example it is 1, 7. Give any random values. Okay, so these are the 6 values. The summation of this would be 29 and the average is 4.833. Okay, so I've got the result. The first 3 values would be stored in the first row and the second 3 values would be stored in the second row. The sum is 29 and the average is 4.8. So this was all about how to find out the sum and average of elements of an array, whether it is a single dimension array or whether it is a two dimension arrays. There are some minor changes and accordingly you can write down the program. So that's all for now. Goodbye. Thank you.